Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What's Up, Cuz? I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my crazy cousin, the coach himself, Lancey Irvin. Happy New Year to everyone. We have made it to 2022, Lance. How was your 2021, and how did you bring in 2022, cuz?
2021 was great. We're still here. So that's what made it so great. But I bought in 2022. Paul and I, we watched the movie until 10. We watched church for a while. Matter of fact, let me take that back. We watched 3 church services, Jay. We went from 9 to 10 or 8 to 10 all the way up until 12. But then, the next day we had black eyed peas and our cornbread and all that stuff and some cabbage. I went out and bought my new glasses. I got me some new shades. Bringing the new year right. Cuz, how was yours? How was your new year?
Mine was great. I spent the New Year's bringing it in with my wife and my best friend and his wife, and we went downtown to Chicago. By the Chicago River, just the 4 of us. We found a spot kind of away from everybody, and we were all masked up. And we watched the fireworks along the river, which turned into basically a light and smoke show because the weather was terrible. It was very cloudy. So when they shut off the fireworks into the clouds, it was like, oh, okay, this doesn't look right. So it looked like I was in a war zone, but that's how I brought it in. So hey, what can I say? But anyway. Oh, man. Welcome to What's Up, Cuz, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, say hello to us. Drop your questions in. What's up, Vernon? Happy New Year to you. You've already checked in. I know my guy Armando's out there somewhere. Everybody check in with us. Let us know you're still with us here in 2022. And if you're watching us on that app, that Sports Zone Chicago app, we really appreciate that. If you do not have the Sports Zone Chicago app, go ahead and download it. You can download it in 3 places, and Lance Irvin is going to tell you which 3.
iTunes, baby, Google, and Amazon. Let's go get it. See, you thought you had me. See, I said I'm going to bring the new year right.
Yeah, you did.
I said, but you know what, Jay? I'm feeling some type of way.
Okay. What's up?
You know what? I'm about to take this top off. I'm about to take the top off.
What? Wait, and just so we all know, what type of top is that?
This is my matter of fact. Let me blow up the full screen. This is my Chicago Bears top. Oh, you know what? I just want the fans to know I've been a Chicago Bears fan since I've been about 5. I used to be a Minnesota Viking fan, but I traded them in for the Chicago Bears. So when I was about 5, I started drinking the Kool-Aid. My father and I used to sit down and talk. We talked about the Bears, what a great franchise it was. But you wrote an article, put it on Facebook yesterday. You changed my mind. It's your fault.
It always is.
It's your fault because you pointed out facts. See, the sign of a good journalist, which you are, is to hit the people with facts. And you were spot on. When was the last time we really had a really, really good team? When was the last time we had a really good star on the team? I'm tired of talking about Walter Payton. I'm tired of talking about sweetness. What was that, 1984? We still talking about Walter Payton in this 2022. Who? Khalil Mack, maybe? Brandon Marshall for a second? I don't know. So I find me another team. So this is my last night wearing my Bears.
What? Wait. I'm wearing new headphones in 2022.
I gotta get a side piece team, Jay. I'm tired of being disappointed. We tried out mediocre team, decent team, mediocre. Then always talking about the Super Bowl shuffle. I'm tired of shuffling.
So Lance Irvin is now joining along with his cousin Jason Palmer and the Sports Zone Chicago co-owner Maya Kai, and he's looking for a side piece team.
Now, if we bring in somebody like Louis Riddick as a general manager, then I'd probably be okay with that. But until then, no, I'm disappointed.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say this. You're probably not alone today, Lance Irvin, because the Chicago Bears, they've just, they do one thing right, okay? everybody agreed Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace needed to be fired, which they were today. So everybody was cool with it. Bears fans were happy.
Issue with that, I'm gonna let you
okay, but Bears fans in general were rejoicing. Everybody's happy. And then came the press conference to announce the firings and why they fired them and how's the process going to go for them to hire the new general manager and head coach. And they didn't do well, Lance. I'm going to say that.
You sitting there. I get on the air, ladies and gentlemen. We always try to meet 30 minutes before the show. And I jump on air with my cousin. And I'm listening to all these press conferences and stuff. And I'm sitting there shaking my head. Then I'm reading text messages where we call who do we call a liar, Jay? We call somebody a liar.
We call Olin Krutz a liar. They call
best centers in Bears history almost. We call him a liar. I mean, come on, Jay.
So we're going to end up this first half hour of this show talking about the Chicago Bears and their mess. Before I even say that, let me tell them 6:30. Coming up at 6:30, we've got Deion Thomas, the all-time leading scorer in the history of the University of Illinois Fighting Illini. Deion is going to join us. Standout stars, Simeon, state champion, city champion. He's going to tell us what he's up to now. We're going to talk some Fighting Illini basketball, a lot of other stuff. So Deion is coming up at 6:30. But the talk of the day in Chicago, and for a big part of the sports world, is the Bears. So let's just delve into this, Lance.
Yes, please.
But it's so big. Let's take it in parts, okay? Let's take it in parts. All right. So let's start with the obvious one, Matt Nagy. Okay, Nagy terminated after 4 years. He had one really good year his first year where he actually was the coach of the year. And then he had 3 years that were just downright awful. And these last two were just beyond pitiful. So they part ways with Matt Nagy today, something that we had been calling for a long time. What's up, Dave? We agree with you, Dave. Lance, what are your thoughts on just Matt Nagy getting fired today?
Jay, I'm a former coach, so I always feel some type of way about coaches getting let go because they have families and stuff. The way people were calling for him to get fired, it was just a matter of time, right? My thing is this. He didn't draft Mitch. Did he draft the quarterback?
Nope.
So basically, you and I both know this. One thing I learned about, from sports, Jay, the administration helps you win championships. They help you win more than people think. What type of players did he really have that we could say, man, he had a great team? Maybe he did. I don't know. But my thing is this. He made the playoff. How many years did he make the playoffs, Jay? Twice, maybe? One time. So these days, if you make the playoff once out of 4 years, we so quick to get rid of somebody. And when fans, like I learned from my cousin when we was talking about the Blackhawks, when the roar from the fans gets louder and louder and louder, you don't have a choice. And they really didn't have a choice. So I thought he was okay. He was great his first year. His latter year, people talk about his play calling and stuff. So with that being said, it was probably time for him to go.
So here's my thought on it. I thought he was great the first year. He had a whole bunch of gimmick plays and schemes that nobody knew about. The second year, though, the league caught up with him. It was quite obviously the league had caught up with him. They had an idea what he was going to be doing. And instead of him adapting, he kept trying to do the same things and just thinking it was a personnel problem when it was like, no, dude, it's your scheme. They done caught up with it. And so he went through that for 3 years. And then by the time he got to this year, his play calling was just atrocious. And a perfect example was the game yesterday when they kept going for it on like 4th and 1, and they kept throwing the ball. It's like, get the ball to David Montgomery, you moron, and get the first down. So, I get what you're saying, Lance. And yes, I agree that he didn't get a lot of help with personnel, but he didn't do what he could have done with the personnel that he even had. And I think that was his biggest indictment.
Now, I will agree with you on some of that, too, because I thought we didn't use Mitch the right way. That's okay. But let me ask you this, Jay. Did he have the type offensive coordinator he needed to implement his offense, to implement another scheme?
Well, here was the problem. He was the offensive coordinator. Let's be honest about it. He was the one calling the plays. You saw him there with his Denny's restaurant menu. He had plays he was calling. So that's on him. You have to be able to put your ego in check and say, you know what? I'm not going to do the play calling. You do this. I'm just going to focus on being the head coach. And he was never able to do that.
That's what got him. That's what got him. You have to be able, as a head coach, look, this what you do, this what I do, this what you do. Or find somebody that's ahead of the curve. That's why they're hiring all these young assistants, making them head coach, Sean McVay, and guys like that, because their offensive play calling is extraordinary. So I thought he should have found somebody like that at some point in time. But now, Jay, are we going to find somebody that's a play caller? We going to find somebody that's heavy on defense?
Well, we'll get into that in a minute, because that's a whole.
Because I'm upset today. I'm not.
Yeah. So like I said, we're gonna do this in bits and pieces because there's so much that's happened today. Right. Okay. So that's the Matt Nagy thing. We agree he needed to be fired and why. Okay. So about 15 minutes after they announced they fired Matt Nagy, the city is celebrating. It's like 9:00 in the morning. People are celebrating. Okay. About 15 minutes later, we find out they've also fired Ryan Pace. So now they've gotten rid of the head coach and they gotten rid of general manager. So now all people are really happy. Now they popping bottles of champagne. They sing, streamers going down the street, people honking horns. It's like they won the Super Bowl. So I was like, okay. So they got rid of both of them. Ryan Pace also needed to go basically because of what you said. He did some really bad moves in terms of personnel. He didn't help him. And the Mitch Trubisky one is going to be the most glaring one. But he traded away a lot of draft capital for people that didn't work out. Some of his first round picks, like Kevin White, didn't really work. The guy was hurt. Then our first round pick this year, what's the offensive lineman name? The dude.
Tevin Jenkins.
Tevin Jenkins, who we drafted, who we knew had a bad back or something. We drafted him anyway. So, I mean, when you do that type of stupid stuff, they going to get you. And the most damning thing for me, for Ryan Pace, and somebody broke it down, he paid Mike Glennon, he paid Nick Foles, and he paid some other journeyman quarterback. And the total salary he paid these people was like over $100 million.
What did you say?
It was over $100 million what he paid for Mike Glennon, Nick Foles. It was one other real terrible backup. I can't remember.
I think it was Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
No. Chase Daniel.
Was it Fitzgerald or Chase Daniel? Yeah. It was like a combination of these guys. It was all over $100 million. So. Yeah, he needs to go because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. Your thoughts on Ryan Pace getting fired?
I thought he should have got fired, Jay. I had this conversation almost a year and a half ago when we first started this show. I didn't think he was like you said. First of all, we gave away every draft pick in the country, so we were short about that. I never thought he brought in the type of personnel that Nagy needed. And I just didn't think he was good, Jay. Like, what did he really do? How many playoff runs did we make? 2, maybe?
Well, I mean, if you're Mike Glennon, you're quite happy that Ryan Pace was there. He gave you a whole lot of money.
You promised Andy Dalton a starting spot.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. They're like you said, though. Everybody knew Jenkins had a bad back.
Yeah.
We all knew it. Jay, normally when the Bulls and Bears get a good pick, I'm the first one saying, ooh, I feel like this about him. You take baseball, I take football. Ooh, yeah. I was sitting here like, okay, it's okay. We weren't popping bottles like you said.
Right.
It was time for him to go.
Yeah, it was time for him to go. It was definitely time for him to go. And, Matt Nagy was also his hire, so he has to take responsibility for that as well. Mm-hmm. And, just everything just was turning into a crap show. So, okay, we get rid of these two guys. Everybody is happy. And we only got 15 minutes to kind of talk about all this. So we'll do our best. So we're all happy. And then here comes the press conference.
Okay, come on.
And our guy, George McCaskey, who's one of the owners of the Bears in the McCaskey family, he starts talking, and Ivan is going to play the clip of the George McCaskey press
I
conference.
have to hear this.
There are portions of it. Here's one portion of it.
2018 was a great ride. 12 wins and a division title. Ryan was executive of the year and Matt was coach of the year. We thought we were on our way. Unfortunately, it could not be sustained. Instead, we regressed. Our offense failed to show improvement. We continued to struggle at home. We did not close the gap within our division. In the end, we didn't win enough games. Our guys never quit, and that's a tribute to our players, the type of player Ryan looked for in the draft and free agency, and the way Matt and his staff coached them. It's a little unfair to highlight individual players in a team sport, but I want to commend David Montgomery and Roquan Smith, who gave everything they had on every play. That's why they're fan favorites. At the end of the 2020 season, we had a decision to make. Matt's win-loss record was well above 500, been to the playoffs 2 out of 3 seasons, but with 0 playoff wins. We felt that Ryan and Matt had earned the opportunity to improve upon the results of 2019 and 2020, that continuity was the best route to positive results. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Over 4 seasons, we beat the teams we were expected to beat. Too often, though, we didn't beat the better teams. And you have to do that to excel in this league.
Yes, thank you, George.
Our search for a general manager and a head coach begins today. It will be thorough, diligent, and exhaustive. It will result in the best possible selections to lead the Bears to success. The general manager will be responsible for the entire football operation. For head coach, we will not be limited by philosophy, scheme, whether a candidate's background is on the offensive side of the ball, defensive, or special teams, whether a candidate has previous head coaching experience, whether a candidate's background is in the college game or the pro game, or financial considerations.
So basically anybody's option.
The search team will consist of myself, Ted Phillips, Hall of Famer Bill Polian, our Vice President of Player Engagement, Sue Campbell, and our Senior Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Tanisha Wade.
That's my girl.
I expect that we will reach a consensus on both positions. Ultimately, though, the decision on the next general manager and head coach will be mine.
When you get on the show.
Ted has done an outstanding job as president and CEO of the Bears and will continue in that role. Our family has complete faith in him.
Oh, Lord.
He has persuaded me that with the pending acquisition of the Arlington Park property and its evaluation as a possible future Bear Stadium occupying much of his time and attention, the general manager should report to me. This modified organizational structure, general manager will continue to oversee the entire football operation, including the head coach. The GM will report to ownership. Bill Polian is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because of his success as a pro football executive, including his hiring of 2 head coaches, Marv Levy and Tony Dungy, who are themselves in the Hall of Fame. He is well regarded in league circles and has a lot of contacts. We consider ourselves very fortunate to have Bill assisting us in our search. Sue Campbell is on board to offer his perspective on the candidates, including and especially how will our players respond to this candidate as our leader. Tanisha Wade was recently named to the newly created position of Senior Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Tanisha!
She is involved in all of our hiring. These are the most significant hires we make. Diversity is a critical part of the process. We are committed to providing a fair throughout the process to people of color.
Oh, thank you.
Frustrated Bears may be thinking, what makes him think he's going to get it right this time? We're confident that with the experience we've gained, with the makeup of our search team, we will find a general manager and a head coach who will lead our Bears to the success that all Bears fans deserve.
Woo, Lord. So, Lance Irvin. There's a lot to unpack there. And trust me, that is the very modified version of what we put out there. I'll just start this off and say, I think Tanisha Wade is probably the most intelligent person on this panel that they got to pick the next head coach.
She's like the only one I'm rooting for in this point. Like it's like Tanisha. I mean, but not hating on Tanisha. I don't think it's Tanisha's fault. But you created a position out of thin air, right? You create a position out of thin air that's going to be connected, like directly connected to the biggest decision in your franchise's history, I think, to this point. What she has no football experience, Jason. Like she has no football experience. Her background is with was it party events?
It's event planning, community relations, and alumni affairs.
What is that? How is that in any way, shape, or form connected to football? It doesn't make sense. And I mean, good for Tanisha for making some money. I mean, she's just doing her job. You know what I'm saying? Like she's just working. Like that's all she did. She didn't expect to get promoted to this, but she obviously got promoted to this, I feel like. And I just feel like you put her in a tough spot. You put yourself in a tough spot. I mean, you got a Hall of Famers in Bill Polian and Tony Dungy. I trust them. Like I said before, on my show, I trust them. But if you're not going to put them, if they're not going to be there consistently, day in and day out, we're trusting you, George. Like you're in charge, George, because the GM reports directly to you. And
Lance, what did you think of George's speech?
I'm gonna play cold cracker on this.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna play the cold cracker. Raekwon Smith, he mentioned those players. Why? Why? Because they had a good year? You want everybody to say, whoa, they had a good year. We had two players had a good year. Mention them. Financial consideration. There's no financial considerations. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
Why not? They need to call Mike Tomlin. Why not? If there's no financial consideration, I'm not saying Mike will leave, but some throw out about $10 million a year. He maybe think about it. He just said that, right?
He did say that. He said they don't consider financial constraints.
This is me thinking, why not call Sean Payton? Why not just call him? I'm not saying those guys will come.
Well, first of all, I think it's illegal to do that. Isn't that tampering? They're under contract, Lance.
Well, after the season, I don't care. You get it out. Get it out like other people do. Behind the scenes. Y'all know everybody works behind the scenes.
Take the penalty and keep rolling.
You don't
take the penalty and keep rolling.
Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. You don't have an idea what coach you're looking for. You don't have an idea what you're looking for in the head coach. You knew you was getting rid of him 2-3 months ago. Didn't they?
Yeah.
Cracking the code. Didn't they?
Yeah.
And then the last point, I'm putting everybody on the panel because I don't want to take the blame if it's a bad hire.
Yep. And that's why I'm afraid for our sister Tanisha Wade, who we didn't even know was with the Bears until today.
There you go. So that's the cold cracker.
They about to give her Tanisha about to get the Christopher Darden treatment, when the glove don't fit.
And then let me say this. Tanisha may be a pretty good football mind. How much say-so is she really going to have?
We know that. We know the answer to that. We know why they put her on there. Let's be honest. We know why they put her on there. They wanted to get a person of color on the committee to say, well, we look for a black coach. We look for a Latino coach. We even had a person of color on our committee. We know what that bullshit is.
And it's not like
they don't interview Louis Riddick. I got a problem.
Correct. If they don't, it's beyond that. You know what I'm saying? It's beyond that. If you're allowing George to have the final say, and this is my thing, because George has this kind of wild card effect to him. And I mean that because you have him with these connections, these personal ties, and these connections to people. Ted Phillips not being able to let go of his teddy bear. Can't let go of his teddy bear. Can't do anything without Teddy. You held on to Ryan and Matt Nagy way too long because they were great men of character, and you trusted them to get the job done and get it done right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could say all that, George. You could continue to hold on to these things, but you're talking about a thorough investigation of who should be your quarterback, or excuse me, who should be your head coach, with guys like Bill Polian and Tony Dungy who are going to be right there. I mean, that's what they're there for. And I don't know if he's paying them to be there or what, but they're going to be there for that. He made it seem like they will be there throughout this process for that, helping them out. If you're the final say and these guys are pushing one way and you like a guy because you have an inkling about his character, he's a good guy, a nice guy, and stuff like that, and he very well might be, but he could be the wrong guy. If you go ahead and you're the final say and you just forget whatever the hell Bill Polian, a Hall of Famer, and Tony Dungy, another Hall of Famer, say, then what the hell is the point of even having you around or having them around? Like, what is the point of even listening to their counsel if you're going to go ahead and be the final say?
And I mean, Lance, you've been in these situations. You've been coached. You've been a coach. You've been fired. You've left jobs. You know how there's so much politics that goes in a lot of this stuff. Just how did you read everything that happened today with the Bears, from the firing to what you've seen so far of the press conference with Georgia? You hadn't seen everything.
Early on, I thought it was handled well. I mean, it's unfortunate you have to make. We all say you hired to get fired at some point in time. If it don't go your way, we all know that. But I just thought when you start calling out former players, then that semi gets a little dicey. And also, with my man George, Jason, how long has George been around?
Well, he's a McCaskey, so it's kind of like the mafia. They like married into the family. So, right. but he's been in charge in the position he's been in for 11 years.
He's been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Family business. Does Mark Trestman ring a bell to you?
Yep.
Does John Fox ring a bell to you?
Yep.
Mac Nagy ring a bell to you?
Yep.
Lovey Smith, and I like Lovey.
Yeah.
We still talking about Mike Dicker. So at some point in time, you got to get one of them right now.
It's an ownership. Yeah,
exactly. That's why he said we're getting Poland. We're gonna ask Deion when Deion Thomas jump on.
Yeah, we will.
Deion used to coach. Jay, don't blame
it's the ownership.
This hire. It's the ownership.
It's definitely ownership.
Come on, because if you're the leader, myself and this other, we're making the call. Make the call then, and just live with it. The sister, like I said, Tanisha probably is a good person. Everybody on the committee. But at the end of the day, this hiring coming down to you, George.
I agree. And, it's a shame because I think the Bears have some of the most loyal fans around. And to see what they have done to this organization is absolutely shameful. Absolutely shameful. And you and I can also talk real quick. Also, the Miami Dolphins today, they also let go of Brian Flores. Flores had Miami at 9-8 this year, and he did that with Tua hurt most of the doggone year. I think he's a great coach. I think Miami made a huge mistake. But to me, it's all about, again, black coaches not getting as much time to get themselves in a position they need to be before someone comes in and yanks them off the stage. And I know that's something that's dear to your heart. So why don't you speak on that for about 60 seconds before we go to commercial break?
You're always happy when we get an opportunity to coach in high school, college, and in one of the professional leagues. But with that being said, though, we need time. 3 years, 2 years, that's not enough. And also, we need to be in a position where we can succeed, Jay. That's all we ask. If you give us the things we need, give us the right pieces we need, and if we can't drive the car, That's fine. But don't put us in a position just to be a stop guy. Okay, we're gonna put him in there to stop the bleeding. Then he gets it right or get it wrong for after a year or two. Then you get rid of him. No, give us a fair look. These coaching positions are hard. Wins are hard. It's hard turning something around in a couple of years, Jay. You know how people always say trust the process?
Right.
How you gonna trust the process in a short period of time? If they didn't give Coach K 5 years, we wouldn't be talking about Coach K.
Well, and my whole point to people like your boy Dave Kaplan, who I got a big time problem with, when they said should they bring the brother of Flores up here to Chicago, he was like, no way, stop it, ain't gonna happen. Let me tell you something, Dave Kaplan. Bill Belichick wasn't shit his first 3 years. Okay, that man's record after his first 3 years of coaching was 20-28. This brother's record after his first 3 years is 24-25. Okay, so the brother definitely deserves another shot with another team. And I got a problem with Cap. Cap know better. Cap want to be a friend of our community. Cap know better than to say some dumb stuff like that and think I ain't gonna come after him for saying it. So Dave Kaplan, if you want to come on the show and defend that nonsense, come on the show. But I didn't appreciate that today. You know better than that, Dave. So with that, we're going to go to commercial break because Deion Thomas is coming on. And we're going to talk some Illini hoops and a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Bears with Deion, too. We're going to put Deion.
We'll be back in about 60 seconds. You're watching What's Up, Cuz.
I fought for this country.
I stood up for our freedom.
Now they call me a hero.
But the true heroes are the people who donated blood and saved me.
And me.
And me.
Perfect strangers donated the blood that saved my life.
They saved my daddy's life.
Now that I'm back in Florida, I want to ask you to do the same.
Become a true American hero. Donate blood today and save someone's life.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the crazy coach himself, Lance Irvin. And just like the commercial just said, everybody, remember, January is National Blood Donor Awareness Month. Currently, there is a shortage of blood around the country. A lot of this is due to the COVID pandemic. They're even asking some hospitals to not do some surgical procedures because there's such a shortage on blood. So they only want them to do it if it's an absolute emergency. That's the crisis we're in. So go ahead. If you're an able-bodied person and you can't go out there and donate that blood, you can help save someone's life. And I know, Lance, when you had to have your surgical procedures, you know, the blood donations was huge for you. It helped save your life. So exactly. I know there's something dear to your heart.
That is huge. So if you can do what my cousin Jason just said, we ask that you do, because you never know about a life that you're saving.
All right, let's bring our first guest. I'm not going to even give him some long intro because he's a friend of the family. And everybody knows him, so I'm just going to make it a real quick one. The man has won when he's gone places. He won at Simeon. He won at the University of Illinois, where he's the all-time leading scorer. He then played overseas. And he's winning in life, which is the most important thing. He's back working at his alma mater, and he's here to join us. Everybody, Deion Thomas is here. Deion, what's up, Big D? Uh-oh, you're on mute, Deion.
Can you hear us?
I am. I am. I do podcasts and everything else, and I'm putting myself on mute. I'm on Zoom call today, and I'm putting myself on mute. But Lance, explain to him. We ain't playing cousins. We real fans.
Don't tell him that. What's up, cuz? That's what we call
exactly.
It. Exactly.
This fits literally. What's up, cuz?
I almost called you Steve Harvey. Cause you killing it like Steve Harvey.
I'm trying to get there.
We on radio.
Yeah.
We in the fundraising room. We giving people knowledge. You giving people advice on the court. Man, Dion, first of all, I know it's Coach Lou's birthday today. Coach Lou's birthday today. Talk to me about what type of influence Coach Lou had on you when you was coming up through the ranks.
You know, it's hard to say when you tell people that people come into your life and they change your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we all know Jimmy Collins recruited me. Jimmy Collins was like a dad to me, but we also know that Lou Henson was the head coach, and nothing moves if the head coach doesn't say, "Yeah, we want to sign this kid." What he did when he gave me that opportunity, and when my grandmother, I'm sitting there and we going through, Granny, who, you know, which schools we gonna go to? We ran down Arizona, ran down UCLA, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, and she was like, "No, none of those. I trust this guy, and I love that guy." and, and that's the bottom line. She was like, "I trust Lou Henson to help you do things and be the right way," and that's exactly what he did while I was there at Illinois. And when I graduated from Illinois, is when I really understood and appreciated what Coach was really trying to do. You know, and Lance, you know this as a coach, kids never get it when you're actually with them. They really get it after they're gone and it clicks. And that's really understood all of the life lessons and the bitching and moaning and I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys are PG or not.
No.
You see how my cousin, you see how Jason is, Dion.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
We appreciate that.
And you know, you realize all of the things that they're trying to give you, and the coaches and your mentors are trying to give you years later. And that's when I really learned to appreciate Lou for not just the coach that he was, but the person that he was. And when I got into the business, you know, Coach was one of the first persons that I called. I'm like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about." You know, and he gave me that stamp of approval. "You'll be great at this. You should go right into it." And the first thing he was like, "Hey, just make sure your players are tough." He was like, "We want guys like you and guys like, you know," and he runs off this whole list of guys. And that was one of those things that always stuck with me as a coach when I was recruiting. And as as an adult, you know, he used to be like, every day, make sure you do something that you don't like. And I was like, when I was in college, but I'm like, man, why the hell would I do that? But as he was said, it builds intestinal fortitude. It makes you tough. Well, we come up, we do things every day in life, but we don't realize we're doing them because we don't want to do them. We're doing them because we got to survive, which is two totally different, you know, things. But really important man that really helped me find my path. Especially after basketball.
Man, Dion, and you work with Coach Collins, Jimmy C at UIC. How's that to work for Jimmy? I mean, we all love Jimmy to death, and we need more Jimmys out there still coaching.
Yes.
Jimmy give you advice. Jimmy's gonna love on you. Jimmy's gonna tell you when you did right or wrong. How was it working for Coach Collins and studying under him?
Well, you know, Coach is always, like you just said, you know, he wasn't just like a dad. He was a mentor. He was a real teacher. He was a parent. He was, you know, an ass kicker when he needed to be. He was a hugger when he needed to be. And he always, and you know this, Lance, one thing you always knew that you was going to get from him, it was going to be the truth. Now, whether you liked it or you didn't like it, you knew you were going to get it. And that was one of the things that I appreciated from him. You know, he'd get up in you and be like, "Big Slim, you know, I'm just telling you because I love you." You know, and always what you want to hear is what you need to hear. And that was what Coach was about. And you know, and he let you know, "I'm gonna get you, but I'm gonna hug you at the same time." It's all out of love.
So go ahead, Jay.
Dion, question I was going to ask you is, you know, your record still stands down there at U of I as the all-time leading scorer. Are you surprised that it's still standing?
Hell yes. Come on, man. Well, you know what? I'm not surprised because after the D Brown era ended, you know, Illinois went through a rough patch. and they just weren't recruiting the level of guys that were going to get there, and they could have had some of the guys they had on that team outside of the Malcolm Hills or the Brandon Pauls or somebody like that. They could have been there 7-8 years and they wouldn't have gotten it. They just weren't getting that production from players. This is why I got a pat Underwood on the back, bringing in Io. If Io stays another year, that thing is probably gone. I told Kofi in the last game when they beat in the last game the other day, I say, bro, come on back one more year. And it was Io night, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Come on back one more year, do what Io did, solidify your name and who you are, your reputation and everything at this institution. Beat my record, and then we'll be having a Kofi night where we stringing your jersey up there. And then I get to do what Eddie Johnson did for me. The night I broke the record, Eddie Johnson called me. And, and he's like, yeah, you're from Chicago. I'm hype. I'm like, holy shit, Eddie Johnson. He calling to talk to me. And Eddie was, he was like, Dion, he was like, congratulations. And to be honest, I really want to do that. But, today's age of basketball, man, guys are jumping out of there 2-3 years and they gone. You got to put up huge numbers to get that thing in 2 or 3 years. So hopefully Kofi will come back or somebody will stay. And what that also means, and I am a huge proponent for this, is that means they're going to be getting that degree.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dion, you just said something. You led me into my next question. Has Illinois turned the corner? Have you guys turned the corner, Coach Underwood? Because you talked about those couple of years now. It was slim for some years now. Have you guys officially turned the corner?
They have turned the corner. If you look at it, and this goes back part to what you guys were talking about earlier with the Bears and how black coaches have not gotten an opportunity to really be able to get things done. You need time to really put your stamp on a program. And I say it's that because Coach Underwood actually was able to do it in 2 years. Now, granted, and if I don't know if that would have happened if he looked like us, because that year before he lost the most games in the history of the University of Illinois at 21 games, and then the very next year they actually had the biggest turnaround in the University of Illinois history with winning 20, if I'm not mistaken, 23 or 24 games before COVID shut everything down. But I will say this, Chan told me one thing at the end of the year when they lost to 21 games. He was like, Dion, he was like, remember this. This is the year that things turned around. He's like, everything is going to be different next year, blah, 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 and it held true. Underwood seconded that conversation. And, when he came on the post game after that last game, he was like, Dion, next year is going to be better. And then, as I said, we had Chen on right after, and he was like, this is going to be the moment. And it was a moment because that was 2 years. Year 3, we would have been in the Big Ten tournament. We would have had a high seed in the Big Ten tournament, but it got canceled. We would have had a high seed in the NCAA tournament, canceled. Last year, number 1 seed. Now, unfortunately, we ran into Loyola, and Loyola was a hell of a lot better than the NCAA seeded them. Not seed. And they clearly outplayed Illinois that night. And so you asked if they turned around. I think so. If you look at what they're doing, what they did last year, this year, the freshmen that we brought in were all 4-star athletes, all really good guys. I do not think, Padinsky or RJ Melendez or Goody, I don't think any of them are going anywhere. But if you look at the 3 freshmen we got coming in next year, in my opinion, they might be even better than the ones we have this year. So here you are. I mean, you got 4-star guys. Your 3 recruits are 4-star guys, which I hate to use the star crack.
Gotcha.
But that's what they say.
Exactly. For descriptions for the fans, you got 4-star guys, and now you got 4 and 5-star guys coming in next year. So it's on the rise. And what we're doing in the athletic department, as you mentioned, I'm the associate athletic director for development for Illinois now here in our Chicago office. We're rebuilding. We built a whole new football practice facility. We're in the process of redoing the Irvin practice facility for men's basketball, which of course Illinois was the first in the country to have its own standalone practice facility. And now we're redoing it, going to put it right back on that level where it was before. We've redone the golf, we've redone tennis, we've redone track and field. What Josh Whitman has done, has put in place to allow those coaches to be successful. And once those kids are now coming on campus and they're seeing all this bricks and mortar and beams going in the ground, as well as now you're not just playing that early game on BTN. You're playing on ESPN, you're on CBS, you're on Fox Sports 1. So now you're not just local, you're nationwide. So yes, definitely have turned that corner.
You know what, Dion, when you and I talked, we talked about how you made the jump from coaching to administration. How did you make that jump? Like, what was your thought process? Because all we thought about, me when I was coming up, man, either we going to play overseas, playing the NBA, or either coach. So you did the coaching and you in administration. And I'm proud of you. Talk to us about that transition and what led to that.
I appreciate it. And I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, because it wasn't.
True.
I went through the same things like, most athletes go through when you finish your career, especially as long as mine was at 14 years, professionally, not here in the United States. I was where people really didn't see.
So you got the tax-free money, so you should give Jason a loan. Can you give us a loan? Can you sponsor our podcast? DP Sports Entertainment. Oh, my fault. I apologize.
I appreciate that, cuz, but I got a kid in college. So
you going to Illinois on a discount?
Well, trust me, that discount ain't that much. especially when she got to eat, she got to. It ain't that bad, man.
My bad.
And she was a good basketball player. I was begging her, fam, please take the scholarship. And she was like, "Nah, Dad, nah, I'm done. I want to do animal science." And I'm like, "All right." So now the second one, I'm like, "Baby, please take this scholarship. That's my volleyball player." So I'm like, "Man, stay out of my pockets."
Jason, I'm clapping.
Yay!
Dion, that's why my daughter played volleyball.
See, Dion? So Dion's daughter did the Brooklyn Irvin and said, "The hell with this basketball, I'm going volleyball." I keep telling you, they all coming to my sport.
Jason, stop interrupting my question. Dion, talk to us about admin. How did you get into administration? I apologize because he's about to make me mad, and I'm going to start cursing on the show.
Well, you know what it was. And after coming back, and it wasn't easy. It's like anything in the athletic world. It's who you know. It's not necessarily what you know. So part of it was when I came back, I went into coaching. I was coached a year in high school. I took the junior college job down at Lewis and Clark. But along with that head coaching position at Lewis and Clark, I was the athletic director. And so that was kind of the foray into the administration part. And I still didn't see it. And I'm going to be honest, I still didn't see it. So I went up and worked at UIC with Steve McLean and of course with Howard Moore. And after that, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I need to figure out, my next steps. And this is where the relationship building that I had started when I was at Lewis and Clark, I'd go to Illinois functions, got to meet the president of the university, became really tight with him. And then the chancellor at the time, before Chancellor Jones, came to campus, got really close with them. So when the first opportunity I went after was in this same Chicago office, but they had some other people in mind, so I didn't get the position.
Okay.
Now you like me, I was like, how you not gonna give me the job? Of all people, I'm like, how are you gonna get the job? But okay, I mean, I get it. I didn't have experience in fundraising at that time, which most of us do not, because that's
True.
not a field that a lot of Black people are in, and let's just be quite honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to work in the president's office. He was like,
Okay.
Dion, I want to create a position in our campus. So I was the community relations coordinator for all 3 campuses. So for
Nice.
the U of I system, which basically I worked with local state politicians, the schools, school boards, school organizations, and all of that. So it was really became a relationship building job. It was
Mm-hmm.
repairing the reputation of Illinois, especially in our community.
True.
Mm-hmm.
This is scouring, doing all this, and while doing that, started building a relationship with Josh. Started building a relationship with athletics. So 2 years later, Josh called me and was like, Dion, I'd like to sit down with you. I've been watching what you're doing. I've been seeing what you're doing. And this, so when we sat down, we had coffee actually in a little small coffee shop over on the west side.
Okay.
Yeah, I had him. I had him come
You
over
see,
there.
I'm like, okay.
There you go. Okay.
I had him come over there. Yep, meet me here. This is where I want you to meet me at Hope Cafe, right on Roosevelt.
There you go.
Okay.
Meet me over here, and he came. That's when I knew, this was when I knew he was serious.
Okay.
So you asked how I did it. It really was relationship building.
Okay.
And as he sat down in that chair, he was like, "Hey, I've been watching what you've been doing. So when we don't think people are watching us, oh yeah, they watching."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was kind of the foray. And then of course opportunity, and when what they say, being lucky. Such thing as being lucky is being prepared when opportunities open. I've done the work to be prepared when the opportunity opens. So he was like, "Dion, I want you to do this. I need to rebuild our Chicago office." He was like, "And anybody at this institution, you're Chicago."
Yep.
I'm like,
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
let's do it.
And so Dion, and on that note, how often do you get to go into Chicago public schools, perhaps, and talk to some students and administrators? Obviously we got a lot of people over at Kenwood now in the family, and Kenwood is also a really good academic institution. I know they would be happy if you were to come over there and talk to some of their kids about U of I. How often do you get into the CPS schools these days?
Well, when I was in government relations, all the time. So pre-COVID, all the time. But since COVID has hit and I've been in this new position, actually not as much. Well, of course, we weren't going anywhere. Schools were closed and so forth and so on. But I have been, again, pre-COVID at Simeon, Hyde Park, so I've been out there until things were shut down. I am always open to come in and talk to any students in any position, and like Lance and I were talking about, to any programs, whether they're athletic or academic, to really get kids to understand that we have opportunity. We just we don't broaden our scope enough to find the opportunity. Like, everybody wants to be a basketball player, but not everybody's going to be that. And this is one of the things I used to tell the kids before we got shut down with COVID, when I was in government relations, because I'd always ask kids. Well, first of all, let me go back. I had to put together a highlight reel for kids to even know who the hell I was.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yes. And I used to carry around all my jerseys and shit like it was I was Santa Claus to let kids know, hey, I know that I'm from here. What I did, and I put up all this stuff and pass it all out, and let the kids play around. They're like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, this dude is legit. You know what he's talking about." But to get them to understand, don't just look at one opportunity to think that that's the only thing that's there. You can be more than a basketball player. I mean, you can be a player, you can be a coach, you can be. You were talking about the Bears earlier. You can be Ryan Pace.
Oh God, no! Don't be him.
You be
Yeah, we have to ask you.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on the Bears?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on the Bears?
Well, I just like JP said, we have the most loyal fans out of anyone. I mean, we stick. Whether you're a Cub fan, a Sox fan, a Bear fan, we stick. So I've been a Bear fan my entire life. I don't think I've ever been more happy, and I don't want nobody to lose their jobs. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But in these positions, you know you're in these positions, and these are result-based positions. If you
Well
ain't
said.
winning, your players ain't doing nothing, you can guarantee you are not going to be there for very long. So with that in mind, I was so glad, one, that we moved up last year. We drafted a doggone quarterback, finally.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
worth a damn if he can get the right people to help him grow on this
True.
level. We didn't have that in place with neither one of these people to help this kid get better. So what do? Get their bus on up out of there. So now we're gonna have to see who they bring in. But I was more than satisfied with the news today that both of those guys were gone, because I don't think they were really helping the team. I mean, if you look at it, Pace made some decent moves, getting Khalil Mack and some of the other things. But you've used up all of our draft capital for the next 4 years. I mean,
what's up, G? Dion, I was telling Jason that. I said the one thing Jason pointed out. I said, where are our draft picks? But I have to ask you this, Jay. I have to ask you this, Jason, too, and you and Dion. And Jason and I talk about this all the time. Will they hire a black coach or give a black coach a general manager serious consideration?
They hired one.
And he did fairly well.
So I say that you said, will they? They've hired one and he did really well for us, took us to a Super Bowl. Now they fired him also because we were percentage points for making the playoffs. So how long would the leash be? I don't know. But to answer your question, yes, they have proven that they will hire, a black coach. Now, will we hire a black GM?
Right.
I mean, but no, how many teams across the league are hiring black GMs? They're not giving us those type of opportunities. I mean, I would hope that, that they would consider it, because I think there's some very qualified, GMs as well as coaches out there. You mentioned Flores. I love Flores. I thought he did a great job down in Miami with depleted rosters, injured players, the whole nine, and they were still respectable. I mean, but
that's the thing about coaching people don't understand. He semi had a depleted roster, like you said. He's dealing with all the other stuff. And this year, like Jason said, he still went 9-8, and he can't get another year.
Right. Well, it's not. To me, it's not so much. Okay, you fire him. Okay, that's cool. That's on Miami. That's y'all dumb mistake for firing this dude, because he know what he's doing. My problem, Lance and Dion, is when now he deserves another opportunity. He deserves another opportunity. And too often, what we see is people who are not from our community, who not nearly as good as Brother Flores is. They get their next job like right away. Like that, almost like they ain't even been fired 2 weeks before somebody else is giving them another opportunity. And that's why I'm going in on our boy Kaplan. And I know Kaplan is a friend of the family. He's a longtime friend of the family. But I don't like Kaplan talking when people were saying, well, how about Flores for the Bears? He like, no way, not a shot. And I'm like, Cap, hold on. Slow down, dog. Why you say that so quick?
But JP, what was his why?
He never said a why. And that was my problem with it.
That's what I would like to say. Now, his no way, no how, would the Bears bring him in? Probably a no way, no how. I mean, you know, because maybe he's looking at it from that standpoint. And I like Cap. We all do. I'm not trying to defend him, and I'm not trying to. But when you're looking at, like you asked me, would they hire a black coach or would they bring in a black GM? I don't know if I want to say no way, no how, but I think he's deserving of it. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons I stepped out of coaching, and Lance, you sat in a lot of these black coaches meetings at the Final Four, and I was in one when I decided to leave coaching. And the first thing they said in this group, and this was like my third year being in them, but this point stood out to me. And then I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to do this, but I need to be on the administrative side of this. because when you go into these rooms and they're hiring and they're thinking about people to hire, first thing you're going to do is hire somebody that looks like you, or somebody that you can relate to. And that's the unfortunate side of it, because there's not enough of us in those positions to relate to people that look like us, because they don't. As much as they might try, they don't. They don't understand growing up on the west side or south side of Chicago.
Nope.
The McCaskies can't. They never will. You know, because when Papa Bear and them lived on the south side, it was totally different. Didn't look the same. Didn't look like it looks now.
Right.
You know, so when they moved out the same as everyone else did, now there's a different element. It's a different look. It's a different everything else. And one of the other things they said, now, of course, on the professional level, it's a little different because they all have agents and the agent is the person that's doing the thing. But they were like, man, one of the biggest things we don't do as Black coaches, and so, you know, is our networking. And when they said that at that event, they were like, why do these white boys get so many jobs? They was like, because they all hang together. They're all talking to each other. When they leave here, they not only talking to each other here, they're still calling each other. They know each other's mothers, fathers, sisters, daughters. And that's an area where we struggle. I mean, and I can speak for myself. I learned the importance of networking. I was 40. Really? I was 40 when I learned the importance of networking. And that's not one of the things that we, you know, teach our kids. That's not one of the things that we teach them in high school. And, you know, my mother used to always say, you know, and she would say it, oh, it ain't always what you know, it's who you know.
It's who you know. That's right.
You hear this as a kid growing up, but you don't know how important that is. You in situations like this. And that's where, you know, will they hire Flores? Probably not. They'll probably bring in a Harbaugh, you know, as they try to make sure they, you know, you mentioned this earlier. We're still talking about Ditka. They're still going to reach at something like a Ditka. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Harbaugh is already on the phone with the McCaskies because he knows them since the time he played here.
Right. I agree. Well, we got some hope, though. We got some hope, Dion, because we're going to put this all on the shoulder of our sister, Tanisha Wade, who's on the committee. Hopefully, Tanisha can get us some African-American candidates to the Bears job. So I feel for this sister because she got a lot on her plate. And
definitely got a lot on her plate. But you know, you know what the beauty of today is? We are so coveted right now because diversity is the punch word for every organization. I don't care whether it's sports or something else. So, you know, that Rooney Rule hasn't held true so far just yet. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it will. But man, it's coming in.
Because at the end of the day, at least we have a seat. At least she has a seat at the table. So
this is true.
The table, at least she maybe. There you go. That's why I fool with you and Jason. People like you and Jason make me look. We do more shows together.
We're gonna try to get the sister on the show, but we done dogged the Bears out so bad this year.
For her to come on.
This is true. I agree. So we are gonna reach out to her, see if we can get her on the show. You know, because you know they need to make inroads within our community. You know, the Bears. You know, they done made their whole fan base upset. So, you know, personally, me, Dion, I personally am an advocate for bringing a second NFL team to Chicago because I think that's the only way that the Bears will get their act together. Because right now, you know, they got like a little monopoly. But I think if they get some competition, they'll be like, oh, man, somebody else can get in our money pockets. And, you know, maybe they'll get their act together. So that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to get Jacksonville or somebody to move up here.
Well, I know Shad Khan. I don't think Shad coming to Chicago. I think Shad down there in Jacksonville. But I will say this. I don't disagree with that. I think, you know, I like that idea. You know, competition always spurs
buffoonery.
It's not buffoonery. It's true.
And they say it's going to happen. But just imagine if you only had Ford. Then what? You need GMC. You need the other ones to make people do what they're supposed to do. So I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm just saying anything that can push the button and make people do the right thing is the right thing. And I gotta say this, JP, I'm loving your sweatshirt, dog.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You know, Go ahead and support Illinois. You know, what can I say?
I see you.
Io gave his former coach an old nice U of I hoodie, Dion. Ooh, that thing was nice, right?
Right.
I looked downstairs. Now my daughter's at Hampton, right? So I looked downstairs. I couldn't find the hoodie, like, 2 years ago. So I go watch it and see, I go watch the volleyball game, and I'm looking. It's hanging up in a closet. I'm like, I didn't give you that. Daddy, I'm from Illinois. You can't wear that anyway. I said, oh, yes, I can.
Hey, Dion, man, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you coming on. We get ready to get out of here. I know everybody's getting ready to watch Georgia and Alabama. Dion, who you got winning the game? Lance, who you got winning the game?
Roll Tide.
Okay, Lance.
Jason, I started off football season with the Roll Tide shirt on. I'm wearing that next weekend on the show.
There you go.
Dion, we're going to do some business together. You meet people and doing great things. Don't forget about your cousin now. I need to eat too, like Steve Harvey, like you're doing like Steve Harvey now.
Never. I'm trying to get the Steve Harvey status. I'm working my ass off, cuz. I'm going to keep on grinding until I get there. I'm not, baby. I see you.
I'm not going to make a prediction for tonight's game because I'm taking the stance that I want Jackson State and Southern in the championship from now on, damn it. I'm going for all HBCU. So I don't care who wins until the HBCU team get there.
They got the number one player in the nation going down there with Deion Sanders.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So I'm pulling for Jackson State. That's who I got winning the title, damn it. So, all right, everybody. For my cousin, Lance Irvin, I guess, Deion Thomas, I'm Jason Palmer. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week for another episode of What's Up, Cuz. Peace.
All right. Thanks, D.
All right, fam.
All right, Jay.
All right.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, we will march on till victory. We will march on till victory. Let us march on till victory.